What if a simple question could bridge any social injustice? What if a simple question could solve any global humanitarian problem? Even global warming. Just a simple, open question that can't be answered by a yes or no. It's a question that has to invite conversation, has to be confusing even. You have to think about a question if you want to accomplish what this world needs you to accomplish. Now let's talk a little bit about the question. And I'll give you a few varied examples of a question and then a few things that I've actually done that were based on a question. So if you really think about a question, I think about all kinds of things and what they started. But let's go to a rainy night in Paris, just 10 years ago. Two individuals can't get a taxi. It's pouring rain. They're wondering, why can't we get a taxi? And one of them says to the other, why don't we create an app where they press the button, it will geolocate where we're at, and it'll send a taxi. That night, Travis Colonet and Garrett Camp brought together Uber Cab just 10 years ago. And it was all about a question. And that question continued to frame the company on and on. I'll give you another example that I like that did a major technology advancement in the 1940s. And what's so special about this is the question was created by a 3-year-old girl. And the 3-year-old girl just had a question. So her father, Edward Land, and the family were on vacation in Santa Fe, New Mexico, taking pictures. Scenic pictures, family pictures, and the 3-year-old says, Daddy, why do we have to wait to see the pictures? In 1944, Edwin Land created Polaroid Land Instant Camera because she asked the question. And by the way, that technology exists today through covert operations, through intelligence operations. It's technology that has follow the test of time. I had to mess up somewhere, so I might as well do it there. It's just me, I'm winging it. But another friend of mine, a dear friend named Lee Stein, he reframed a question. So if you think about framing a question, a big open question that can't be answered by yes or no, sometimes it's the wrong question. And what he said is, are we asking the wrong question about global warming? And he said, why don't we treat carbon as an asset? And guess what he did from that question? He created the Global X Prize, the Carbon X Prize, a $20 million X Prize to determine how we can use carbon in a positive way. And then I've got just one more example. And this one's one of my favorite Brainiac quotes. And it was by Albert Einstein. And Albert Einstein said, if you give me a problem with 1 hour to solve it, and it's a life or death situation, I'll spend 55 minutes framing a question, because once I have the right question, it'll only take me 5 minutes to solve it. So what I'm suggesting here is, for any social injustice, any environmental injustice, any cause you can think of that you personally want to bridge the gap, question first. Create the question first. Now, this is a really important concept because most people always want to know, do I turn right, do I turn left? The steps. When they go to the steps versus creating a big question that has a big destination, they get lost in the how and they set it aside. So question first, keep it open, keep a big question. Now, what happens when you ask this question? Well, I'm going to tell you, you activate the most sophisticated processing, most sophisticated information system that you can even imagine exists just by asking the question. Now, let me give you another little example. My wife and I flew into Pittsburgh yesterday. What's the first thing we did? Siri, how do we get to West Virginia University? As soon as we did that, we activated 4 satellites. They started trilaterating. They found our position, they found our destination, and they gave us the path to get there. Didn't think much of it, right? It just exists out there. Well, what if, when you asked an open question, you activate 4 people. You activate a global people system. These people are coming to you to help you solve for your answer, solve for your question. And it happens. I know it happens. Early in my career, I ran into this and I was amazed. And it was just unbelievable. But I want to come right back to one little thing, as I said before. When you ask the question, if my wife and I would have landed in Pittsburgh and asked the question, hey, what freeway do we take to West Virginia University, we wouldn't have got the answer. If we would ask, do we turn right or left out of the parking garage, we wouldn't have gotten the answer. You have to ask a big, open question. Again, I think the people that accomplish major change and the people that don't are differentiated by one thing. The people that accomplish major change keep the destination in mind. They don't worry about the how. They don't worry about turning right or left. They focus on the destination. So let me give you a couple personal examples. One of them was very early in my career and started with a strawberry. I was sent by a major food company to Watsonville, California to find a source of strawberries. So I went and I met with this big farm. It was really impressive. The farm was impressive. The production facilities were impressive. The grow area was impressive. It was amazing. And so at the end of the farm tour, I'm with the manager, and I'm ready to shake his hand, cut a deal, tell him, world, we found the strawberries. And so it was at the end of the aisle, of the growing aisle, and so I reached down to pick a strawberry. He said, I wouldn't do that. I said, what do you mean you wouldn't do that? He said, I wouldn't eat that strawberry. And I had just learned on the tour, after they sprayed pesticides and herbicides, they have to post it for 14 days so no one touches the plant for 14 days. So I said to him, it's not posted. What's the problem here? I said, do you take these strawberries home to your family? And he said, no. He said, I don't. I said, where do you take strawberries home from your family? He said, well, a little farm up the road. I said, will you give me directions and tell me who to ask for? And he said, absolutely. And I left there going, what's wrong with this picture? Here's the supplier that I know this big food company is going to want to use, and he won't even eat the strawberries. Won't allow me to eat a strawberry. It's wrong. So I got up the road, went to this other farm, contrast to the last one, a very small, very, very small. Would never be able to produce for a major cereal manufacturer strawberries, just wouldn't happen. But that was the dichotomy. That's what really started eating at me, because when I was talking to him, there was bugs, the ecosystem looked alive. And when I reached for a strawberry, he reached for one too, and we both ate them right out of the field. I go, this is the way it's supposed to be. So I didn't know what to do with this. This was my first time I had been hit with a conflict that gutturally got to me, right? I just couldn't understand how this could be. So I was driving down the 5 from Watsonville, California, and it just kept coming to me. And this question, how do we eliminate harmful chemicals in our food system, especially pesticides in produce and antibiotics in livestock? I kept saying it, kept saying it, kept saying it. It was consuming me. So I got to San Diego, and the first person I met was an associate of mine named Bill Shepard. I told him how aghast I was because of this food system. And he said, Anthony, he said, I'd like to help you with that. And I said, you would? And he said, yes. And he was the first person of the global people system. And he said, and by the way, I got a friend of mine named Mark Lauer who would like to help too. I'm sure he can do this product development. And pretty soon, person after person after person came. And guess what? Everything was defined by this question. How do we eliminate harmful chemicals in our food system? And guess what we did? We went to wheat farmers. We went to corn farmers. We said, how do we do this? They said, we know how to do this. And so we created this company called EcoTerra. And everything from the wheat grown to the bread, to the carrots, to the corn, everything, including beef, pork, and poultry, was designed to take the harmful chemicals out. We were so excited about it because this is what we did. We went to Stallbush Island Farms for frozen vegetables, and her name was Carla, and we said, Carla, how do we get chemicals out of here? She said, oh, it's easy, Anthony. We know how to do it, but no one pays us to do it. I said, well, what if we pay you to do it? She said, we'll do it all day long. Her picture, her family's picture is on the package in the story of how they used integrated pest management instead of pesticides and herbicides. Fabulous. It worked. Everywhere along the place, we just asked the question. I mean, think about it. You just go to the corn grower, go to the potato grower, and they tell you how to do it. The biggest question was my wife, because we had 5 credit cards with $20,000 each on it, and that's what funded this business. But as these global people systems grow, it's amazing what else spins out of it. So from here, we formed the Association of Family Farms so that we could take small family farms and put them together, because remember I said that poor little strawberry grower was too small to do a big food company. But if we put 10 of them together, could we service a big food company? So the reason I was really excited about this is antibiotics in pork is a major problem. And when we formed the Association of Farms, we did it primarily for pork producers and to eliminate antibiotics. And if you've ever had a Chipotle carne asada burrito, you can thank this global people system that was created from one question. So again, question first. Big open question, and everything you need, all that activity, all the people will come to you. So I want to give you, I'll go run through this next one fast, but I was in Santorini on the island. It was beautiful, pristine waters, and there's water bottles all over the place. And I had never really thought about post-consumption waste. It just hadn't really hit me. I'd done everything on pre-consumption. And I went back to the hotel and I said, what are the recycling rates for plastic? And they were abysmal. They were less than 20%. And all of a sudden, I'm asking the question. All of a sudden, the question comes to me, how do we make an economically driven global recycling system that will stop plastic from polluting our global oceans and waterways? That's all it took. Flew to New York, had a meeting with some friends, met a guy in a lobby, told him how aghast I was about this, and Paul, his name was Paul Wolf. Paul Wolf looked at me and said, I'll help you with that. I go, you will? He says, I want to build the system. With Paul Wolf, Code Blue Recycling was born, and Paul did build a system. Paul built a system of kiosks. There was over 2,200 of them in the US. There's thousands in the EU today that still operate. And this was an incredible system for collecting plastic at the point of use. Couple of other comments on this. In this global people system was an individual named Mark Arman. Today, Mark has a major recycling initiative in states that don't have recycling. And he's doing it. He's spun out of this. A couple of the other guys decided that because Tesla was building a huge building and needed roof board, that they'd make the roof board out of plastic and waste paper, and they did, and still doing it. So all of this comes with question first. So just to review, how many of you have something that's boiling your blood that you're angry about that's a social injustice? How many of you? Yeah. Are you formulating a question right now? Because if you just formulate a question, you can activate this system right here and now. You don't have to wait. Start formulating your question. So again, you ask that big open question, and the global people system will go to work. These people will start coming to you, okay? A couple of other things. Do you know how incredible and extraordinary you are? You're individuals. You are incredible and extraordinary. You're the best processor in the world. Every individual that comes to you is going to enhance you as well. And also, when these people come, don't judge. They might be the mortar in that brick wall. They might have a little slice that you need. And one other thing, from here on out, when you use a device, Alexa, Google Home, I don't care what it is, Siri, and ask a question, let it remind you right now that you just raised your hands with a social injustice. Have you asked the question? Have you asked the question yourself to activate the global people system? People, it's there, it's waiting for you, and I want every time you ask a question of Siri to remind you that you need to get on with it. You need to ask a question, change the world, and you can do it. Thank you.